India is the largest democracy of the world, and elections are the festivals of any democracy. But in India, elections don't happen in simultaneous manner. Means in India there are three types of election. One is at union level or central level, one is at state level, and the last one is at the local level, means at the Panchayati Raj or municipality level. Recently, the government has shifted its focus to one nation, one election. So let us start discussion in the topic. But before that, let's look at a quote of Rahat Induri. Why elections matter in India? सरहद पर तनाव है क्या, कुछ पता तो करो चुनाव है क्या. Means there are so many effects of election in India, and one of the effect of elections is the tensions or struggle India among the people of India due to various factors, due to communalism, due to regionalism, and all sort of this. So let's start our discussion. That we have to start the brief timeline. We have to start our discussion with this brief timeline. When we became a democracy after 26th January 1950, 1951 and 1951-52, this time the first election happened in India, and that time the Lok Sabha and state assemblies election happened simultaneously, and that trend continued till 1967. In 1957, 1962, 1967, elections happened in the simultaneous manner, both in the state level and in the central level. At that point of time, there was no local level elections. There was no local level body like Panchayati Raj, like municipal corporation or municipality as such. In 1959, Article 356, that is the President rule, was imposed on Namboodiripada's government in Kerala, and the simultaneous election broke for the first time. At that moment of time, India had 14 states. So after the Kerala government was dismissed, 13 states were there whose elections happened simultaneously after this. So except this one state, 13 states elections were going all together or in a simultaneous fashion. In 1982, but after that, before coming to the 1982, but after that, after 1967, due to some causes like the president's rule cause or due to the instability in the center, the cycle of simultaneous election broke at that point of time. In 1982, Election Commission of India mooted the idea of simultaneous elections again. In 1999, the 170th Law Commission report explored the feasibility and potential advantages of simultaneous elections. What are the advantages of simultaneous elections? What are the disadvantages of this? I'll come to that in a later slide. Next, in 2018, Law Commission issued a report which stressed on the needs to consider constitutional amendments and legal reforms to make simultaneous elections a reality with a focus on one person, one vote and the integrity of the electoral process. In the meantime, in the Constitution Day of 2020, the present Prime Minister, that is Mr. Narendra Modi, called for simultaneous election or one nation, one election. Even in the BJP's manifesto, that is their manifesto of 2014 and 2019, one nation, one election was there. Recently, in 2023, the present government had appointed a committee under the past President of India, Mr. Ramnath Kovind, to examine the feasibility of this one nation, one election. Okay, so this is the timeline. Now come to the discussion of some countries where the simultaneous elections happen. We have borrowed our constitution, we have borrowed our features of constitution from different countries. So USA is one of that. USA is a federal country, and you can say US is a federal democracy. In United States of America, elections happen in the every 2 years, and that too on a fixed date. What is that fixed date? Between November 2nd and between November 2nd and November 8th of any particular year, and the day of election happened to be the first Tuesday of November for every election year. So they have to face election. Their citizens have to go to the polling booth in every 2 years. Both federal and states election happen in 2 years, and presidential or vice presidential election happens in every 4th year. So the last time the vice presidential or presidential election happened in 2020, when the President Mr. Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris came to power, and after that the presidential election will be happened in 2024. Okay, so federalism does not get affected in the entire process. You all know that US is the largest federal democracy, from which we have even borrowed the concept of federalism. Even India is not that type of federal country. Indian federalism can be called a quasi-federalism in that sense. So US is more federal than that of India. Now come to the discussion of UK. First Thursday of May, elections happen. It happens in UK, except the election for the House of Commons. So House of Commons means the supreme powerful body of the parliament of the UK, because they don't have the written constitution. So every power is concentrated in the hands of House of Commons, which is like the Lok Sabha of India. So this day, means this first Thursday of May, is chosen as election day in UK. House of Commons passed an act called Fixed Term Parliament Act, or FTPA, in 2011. As per the Act, House of Commons election also happens on the first Thursday of May. House of Commons elections happen in every 5 years, except in the cases of no confidence motion. If no confidence motion can be passed in the House of Commons, then the government has to resign, like the case of India. Okay, to hold special elections means if any government wants to hold special election except in the gap of 5 years, in the circle of regular cycle of 5 years, then the House of Commons need to pass a resolution with 2/3 majority voting in favor of the resolution. So that's the thing of simultaneous election in UK. Now come to the arguments in favor why we are saying that one nation, one election is the need of the hour. So first, holding separate elections incur massive recurring expenditure for the state. So financial, you should have a knowledge of financial expenditure of the election commission. That's too much heavy, means about lakhs and crores rupees are spent in every election. In case of simultaneous election, there would be only one electoral roll for one election, for all elections. At this point of time, we have, or the commission has to maintain two electoral rolls. One electoral roll for the made by the Central Election Commission, and one made by State Election Commission, and these electoral rolls have to be updated in a regular manner. Okay, so if we take the process of one nation, one election, there would be only one electoral roll for all election, and the government would need the services of security forces and civilian officials for only once. So look, in case of election time, the election commission needs almost 10 lakh or almost you can say 1 crore of officials, government officials, including some teachers, including security force. All these officers should be employed or deployed in the election booths or polling booths. So due to this process, the education system, normal education process in the schools get hampered also. In that case also, security forces have to be there for the protection or security of the polling booths. So that is a administrative problem to the government. This would save public money and human resources that can be put to other public causes. Okay, so this is the first argument. Second argument, that is dense electoral cycle involves prolonged deployment of security and police force. I have already mentioned. So thus posing a concern for national security and maintenance of law and order. So what if in the time of election, Pakistan or China, any of our neighboring country attacks us? So what can we do at that point of time? Because our forces are mostly deployed in the polling booths. So in that point of time, so this is a concern of national security. The administration comes under strain due to mass scale transfers of officials within the state, either by government looking for pliable officers in key position or by the order of ECI. So election commission doesn't have so many staffs with themselves so to appoint everyone in the election booth. So they have to employ the government employees in that positions. So by the order of ECI, once code of conduct comes into force, high ranking officers from other states are also deputed as observers in the poll bound state. So there is a climate of political uncertainty wherein officials remain perpetually in election mode. So this election mode is a typical governance problem or administrative problem for the country. Now, holding separate election comes in the way of development as enforcement of the code of conduct. This MCC comes in the way, model code of conduct. When the election commissions publish the schedule of the elections, from then onwards to the counting of votes, the model code of conduct is implemented in the election zones. So at that point of time, development basically stalls at that point of time. So this leads to stoppage of ongoing development work. No new projects can be started during this period. Even ongoing projects suffer from inertia. Looking to reap the electoral dividend, parties in power invariably indulge in populist schemes and do not commit to long-term investment in primary sectors. So all the parties start looking for the populist measures at that point of time, and they basically ignore the primary concerns in the zone or in the area. This happens frequently, and this will cause a burden on the state exchequer. Okay, so fourth point is simultaneous election would lessen the role of money in election. So lakhs and crores of monies are spent by the candidates or the parties, political parties in the elections. So that would come down in case of simultaneous elections. The monitoring of election expenditure by ECI also become more effective due to a concerted effort at the national level. So according to Election Commission, the expenditure may come to even 1/4 to 1/5 if simultaneous election comes to the picture. Okay. Next, come to the fifth point. Given the increasing role of divisive politics for electoral gains, so parties start their ideological stances. They start asking for votes for the regional issues. They augment the regionalism, communalism, casteism, all these things in the name of gaining more votes. So this basically impacts on the social fabric of the electoral region. So one nation, one election plan would help them reducing pernicious role of regionalism, casteism and communalism in mobilizing electorates. It would help in bringing issues of national importance on the electoral agenda. And finally, it is being argued that having too many elections creates a sense of fatigue among electorate. That is the cause of low turnout of voters in case of participating in elections. Okay, so voters turnout at the national level has stagnated in the recent elections. Okay, now come to the arguments against the one nation one election concept. Okay, so first, the center's initiative is being viewed as being antithetical to the federal spirit, as there has not been wider consultation with constituent states, especially the ones that are being ruled by non-ruling parties. Okay, that at the center. Okay, so second, holding simultaneous election would most likely push local and regional issues to periphery. So all of the parties will want or will demand votes from voters focusing on the national issues or focusing on the larger issues. So the regional issues may come to the periphery. There would be a national constituency phenomenon favoring quality-wide parties due to their comparative advantages in terms of their claim to better serve the national interest, national security, national unity, all these things, rather than regional parties who will be sidelined for focusing narrow parochial issues. Simultaneous elections in a federal polity would incentivize the regional discontent as well. Okay, so these two are also these two other arguments against the concept. Now come to the third point. As far as cost saving is concerned, holding simultaneous elections would also require large scale of purchase of EVM machine and VVPATs. Okay, so this is one more concern. Moreover, biennial elections to legislative councils or Rajya Sabha and by-elections would still be held, costing money and resources. Fourth point is frequent elections rather than sagging the enthusiasm of voters keep them enthused, as evident in the comparatively higher percentage of voting in state and local election. Frequency of elections at different layers would also help them increasing accountability as elected representatives and their parties remain on their toes. So every fifth year, the electoral representative or political party's representative come to the house of the normal citizens to ask for votes. That will not come. That process will come to a halt when simultaneous election would come in every 5 years. Okay. Now, what are the legal and constitutional changes that needs to be adopted for this process, for these simultaneous elections at the first point? So first, at least 5 articles of the Constitution shall need amendment. These articles are 83 clause 2, 85 clause 2 that relate respectively to the duration and resolution of Lok Sabha. Okay. Also on the legislative agenda, there would be articles like 172 clause 1 and 174 clause 2, which provide for the duration and resolution of state assemblies. Article 85 clause 1 and 174 clause 2 allows the president and the governor to dissolve Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha before completion of their tenure of 5 years under the circumstances mentioned in the Constitution. So what are the circumstances? Like president's rule in case of misgovernance. Okay. The death of the CM or resignation by the CM, or in case of CM wants election to be processed, or PM wants election to be processed earlier than the 5 years term. Okay. So Article 83 clause 2 allows the tenure of Lok Sabha to be extended for 1 year at a time in case of any emergency. okay, which was used by Indira Gandhi government in 1971. In 1971, Indira Gandhi's government came to power, and in 1975, the emergency proclamation took place. Emergency came into impact in the whole country, and her government, which came to power in 1971, was given one more year term, and elections happened in 1977. So 71 to 77 is 6 years of her government. According to this Article 83 Clause 2 being proclaimed under Article 352, that is national emergency. Article 172 Clause 1 makes a similar provision for state assemblies. These provisions would need to be repealed as well. So these are the legal and constitutional changes. Now, after the passage of anti-defection law under the Rajiv Gandhi government, enshrined in the 10th schedule, which came as 52nd Amendment Act of 1985, and later the Supreme Court judgment in S.R. Bommai case, followed by the High Court judgment of Rameshwar Prasad case, the decision to dissolve Vidhan Sabha and impose President's rule under Article 356 is now subject to judicial review. Okay, and judicial review is part of the basic structure doctrine, as you all know. The court can revive the assembly and restore the government if it does not find the grounds of President's rules. So, if the grounds of President's rule seems to be unreasonable by the court, or to the judiciary, they can restore the government to be and President rule has to be imposed in a constitutionally valid ground, and this restoration happened in recent years in the case of Nagaland, Uttarakhand, and even in case of Arunachal Pradesh. Okay. Moreover, such amendments need not only the 2/3 majority support of both the House of Parliament, but also the ratification by the half of the states, because this is a federal issue which needs to be amended. So, in case of amending or amendment of federal issues, these half of the states' ratifications are necessary. Currently, no party has even simple majority in Rajya Sabha. While the states have different parties in power, many of which are not favored of such amendments. Sorry. It would also be much more complex and difficult to link general elections with local bodies election. So if governments think that at the same day the general elections and the local body elections will be happened, this is another issue again. This is because local governments is a state subject, okay, and the state election commission is a different election commission than the central election commission, okay, so which conducts the local bodies election. And all state legislatures have passed separate Panchayati Raj Acts and Municipality Act, fixing the tenure of this body as 5 years as per Article 243 Clause E and 243 U separately. Since all 28 states have their own specific act, it would require changes in 56 sets of legal provision. So these are huge amendments which need to be done at this point of time. Okay, now come to the way forward part. Conducting, so how to implement this one nation, one election, or why should government be cautious to implement this one nation, one election process? Conducting pilot project in states or regions can provide valuable insights into feasibility, challenges, and potential benefits of the simultaneous election. So government needs to be cautious at this point of time. Seeking opinion from independent experts are needed. Constitution scholars and electoral reform specialists might generate valuable guidance in assessing the implications and requirement of the simultaneous elections. Continuously evaluating and analyzing data is so crucial in understanding the impact of simultaneous election. Next, engaging stakeholders. Government has to come with the same table for talk with the stakeholders like the opposition political parties, like the civil society, local regional parties, and voters. Those are the essential part also. Next, the final but very important point is the public awareness. Public awareness and education campaign should be conducted to familiarize citizens with the concept of simultaneous elections, and that's the most crucial need of the hour, which you can say. Okay. Now come to the last slide of the today's topic. Given the complexity of the issue, likely focus is going to be on how Lok Sabha and assembly election can be held simultaneously. So, if we cannot implement 3 tiers of election at the same time, at least government is looking for implementation of 2 tiers of election together. Means Lok Sabha elections and state assemblies election at the same point of time or simultaneously. Even for that, multiple amendments would be required. Since the proposal involves center-state relations, judicial review of the amendment acts shall be a major block. So, judiciary is another component or another stakeholder at this point of time. What seems doable is to make an attempt to club as many assembly elections as possible to be held together or with the Lok Sabha elections in one go, and hope that the verdicts favor formation of a state government. Even for realizing this, there is a need to wider consultation across the parties and constituent states across this democratic country. So these were my discussion. So I hope you enjoyed the session. Keep yourself mentally and physically fit. Bye bye.